Good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. For those who follow me on a weekly basis, you remember last week we did a wheat ale from Bavaria. It was Erdinger Weissbier. And I said I had a similar one I was going to do this week, and as you can see, I have the Erdinger Dunkel, which is basically a dark wheat beer. And Dunkel, actually Dunkel is a German word, basically means dark. So let's pour it up and see how it goes. So as you can see, it got quite a substantial head, and as I mentioned last week, wheat beers in general are known for having a fair bit of head, and this is no different. So just a little bit about the brewery itself. As I said, I mentioned it last week, so it's the same brewery, just a different beer. It's a Bavarian brewery. It's a private brewery since 1886. They go according to what we call before I said the purity laws, which basically said you can only have yeast, barley, water, and hops in your beer. Now it's a little bit odd because they say they still go according to the Bavarian purity laws. However, obviously it's a wheat beer. They use wheat instead of barley. Another episode I'll get in a little bit more into the Bavarian purity laws and the fact concerning wheat beers. Same as last week, it's 5.3% alcohol, so it's about average. The Erdinger Brewery, like I said, it's a special brewery in Germany, in the Bavarian province or state, whatever the case might be, and they specialize in wheat beers, or white beers as they are sometimes called. This one is actually, the Dunkel is actually a fairly new beer. I think it was first brewed in 1989. I guess a brewmaster brewed it specifically as a gift for the brewery owner, and it was such a hit that they decided a year later that they were going to make it a regular beer. So as you can see, it's dark. It's a Dunkel. Substantial head, common for wheat beers. And once it settles down there, I'll have a taste and see how it tastes. The one last week, actually, the wheat beer, they talked about the second fermentation in the bottle. I don't see anything in this one, so I can't say if there's a second fermentation or not. I suspect there is, but I don't know for sure. And this one, they even have a best before date. And I said before, a lot of times if you're buying imported beer, just to check to see if there's a best before date or a bottle date or something like that. Because obviously if it's coming from Germany or Czechoslovakia or Belgium, whatever the case might be, it takes a while to get over here. So you may want to just check on that. I know for me, there's certain beers, imported beers, I've had them, and I haven't been a big fan, and then I'll get into the country where they're actually made, and you buy it locally, and it's a totally different beer. For me, it was Heineken. I had Heineken in Canada imported. Wasn't a big fan. I had Heineken in the Netherlands. I loved it. Okay, so let's give this a taste. Right now I can only get to the foam, but it's got like a little bit of a caramel taste to it. Normally with dark beer you're going to get a coffee or a chocolate or something like that. Like I said, it's not black by any means, but it's definitely dark. It's not overwhelming. A lot of dark beers, you'll taste them and it's like, holy Jesus. It's really, really strong. It's not overly strong. Offhand, my impression, it's not a bad beer. I think I liked the beer last week, their regular wheat beer, a little bit better. But I still got a little bit of tasting left to go before I make my final judgment. I'm surprised. Like I said, with a dark beer, you normally expect a strong flavor. It doesn't have that. It's a little bit refreshing. Well, I guess it's a lager, so. Alright, so as I'm going to take a couple minutes to sip on that, as of every week, I kind of pick a topic and do a couple minutes on it. This week I'm going to talk about beer glass. As once again, I'm using a wheat beer glass. There's so many different types of glasses, unreal. And do you need all the different types of beer glass. Obviously you don't. One of the books that I'm reading, I'm just going to zoom in on it, give her credit when credit is due. It's a book itself. Just zoom in there. You see that? It's called Beerology. And the author is a Canadian. I'm going to hopefully pronounce her name properly. Mirella Amato. And she's a beer expert. She's actually the first, I want to make sure I get this right now, the first Canadian to be certified as a Cicerone. A Cicerone is a beer expert. You know, in wine they have, I know I'm going to bastardize this name too, the sommelier or sommelier. Well, the beer version of that is called Cicerone. So she was the first female, I believe, first female in Canada to get her Cicerone certification. And she was the first non-American person to get her Master Cicerone. So she knows a little bit about beer. So one thing she said in her book, she said, you know, you don't need 100 different types of beer glass because there are so many different. Every style of beer has a beer glass. Some, you know, breweries have their own beer glass for their beer, etc., etc. So she broke it down to 3 different types of glasses. She said you can have a wide glass, which she basically said, you know, your typical nonic we talked about before, your tulip, and your shaker point. And one that I threw in there as well, also your beer mug. So that would be one category, and she called that the wide glass. Basically it has a wide base, a wide body, and a wide lip. And they're normally used for low alcohol beers, say less than 7%, your typical ales, porters, stouts, more your full flavors beers. And a couple of things she said about that. She said the large surface area of the glass allows the aroma to come through. Normally, you know, with those types of beers, you got a lot of aroma. And she said the wide body also allows the carbonation to be released, which helps to release the aroma. And the final thing she said that basically when you're drinking it, you know, you get a lot of beer going across your tongue, which goes across your taste receptors, your taste buds. Another thing, they say when you're drinking from a wide lip, your nose is actually not in the glass, but it's right there. So that actually helps you to appreciate the aroma. So that's what she called the wide glass. Now the second one she said, excuse me, I'll put those away, would be your narrow glass. And that's your typical wheat glass and your typical Pilsner glass. And they're, you know, they're all the same. They're narrow glasses. And they're normally for light, crisp, refreshing beers, normally less than 7%, such as, you know, your lagers and Pilsners and stuff like that. They all, you know, similar in that they're tall and narrow. It shows off the color of the beer, the light can get through it, and also shows off the carbonation, because they're normally highly carbonated, so you know you get your bubbles, so it's an aesthetic more or less. And they also say that the walls of the glass support the head, and as we seen from this one, wheat ales, you get a lot of head, so apparently the walls, they say, support the head. Also, the narrow openings here concentrate the delicate aromas of the beer. That's pretty well what she says. And the final one that she says is your typical stem glass. Now, that could be your, you know, your snifter, your tulip, your chalice, whatever the case might be. And it's normally for low volume beers that are highly alcohol. Obviously, if you have a 10-12% beer, you don't need a goddamn big mug full of it. So these are common for high alcohol beers. Also, it gives you a chance, you can swirl the beer, and then, you know, a lot of times that will help you release the aroma. And finally, they say it's a wide lip, allows the complex flavors and aromas to be appreciated. Oh, another thing, sorry, is that with these ones, you can hold, instead of holding by the glass, you're holding by the stem. And that can, 2 different things. If you hold it by the stem, you're not letting the beer warm up as quick. And for high alcohol beers, a lot of times, a lot of high alcohol beers, you serve them a little bit warmer, not hot, but a little bit warmer. You know, they're not completely chilled like your typical lager. So a lot of times, if you want to warm up the beer, it's easy to do. You just, you know, hold it in your hand, and it'll warm up the beer. And the purpose of that, a lot of times, if you warm it up a bit, it'll help release the flavors and aromas. So I'll give credit there to Mirella Amato, her 3 types of glasses. So instead of getting, you know, all the different types, you can narrow it down to those ones. obviously there's different types of glasses beyond that. You know, you got your typical, you know, your boot mug or your typical novelty mug, another novelty mug. You know, typical. It's a wheat glass, but it's freaking huge. And also you have your proprietorship glasses, such as, you know, this one actually has two different ones. Another proprietorship would be, you know, your typical Kilkenny glass or your Stella glass. That's actually pretty big in Europe. There's some spots in Europe, if you order a Guinness, you're going to get it in a Guinness glass. If you order a Stella, you're going to get it in a Stella glass. Some places to the point that if you order a Stella and there's no Stella glasses clean or available, you're simply going to have to wait. They're not going to serve you a Stella in a Guinness glass or a Kilkenny glass. You don't see that so much in North America, but in Europe, you don't see it everywhere, but in some spots, I've read specifically Belgium, they're pretty keen on that. If you order a Stella, you're going to get a Stella glass. If you order Kilkenny, it's got to be in a Kilkenny glass. So that's my little talk about glasses for today. So you get one or two of each type of glass, you pretty well got your bases covered. But if you want to, you know, for me, I like getting the different glasses, so if I can find a different glass, I'm going to get it, put it behind the bar. I'm not going to spend a fortune. I go to, you know, Value Village, a dollar store, whatever the case might be. All right, back to this one. Let's see what we think. With my Erdinger Dunkel from Bavaria. I'm debating. I think I'm going to give this one. It's good. I think I'm going to give it a strong 3.5. I'm almost tempted to give it a 4, but I believe I gave last week the regular wheat beer, I think I gave that a 4. It's not quite there, but I think a 3.5, a strong 3.5 at that. So there you go, folks. That's my rating for this week. It's definitely a good beer. I definitely recommend you pick it up and give it a try, especially if you like wheat beers or you want something a little bit different. By all means, pick it up. Until next beer, remember, as always, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.